Lesa Albertson in JLA Painting LLC, and today I'd like to show you some tips and tricks on how to cut in that I hope will be helpful to you, and some things to avoid and some things that will help you hopefully do it a lot easier. So enjoy! First, we're going to start with a Dale Wooster brush. I find that this really cuts in best. And we're going to dip, tap, tap, swipe on the wall. It gets rid of all of the paint on one side, leaving a little bit of paint on the other side. We're going to start making a line just to show you how it looks. Do not press too hard. When you press too hard, it creates a bead. Beads are bad. They are uncontrollable, unpredictable, and messy. This method is designed to eliminate them entirely. To get started, swipe it on the wall. We're going to start making our line, barely pressing along the trim, and you'll find that you can make quite a long line without having to redip. Bring it up from the wall, and then you can fill it in. I call this the stripe. So you're going to dip a little bit, just wipe it back and forth on the wall, and you'll get pretty good coverage. And as you bring the tip along the edge of the line, that will give you a forgiving margin to not get paint on the trim. It's your little line to work with that gives you some space. You can eyeball it pretty good. When you come to corners, always work away from the corner. Brush away from the corner. When you make your line, brush away from the corner when you make your stripe. Come up to the corner. If you come down on that corner, you're going to get a bead of paint right on the edge and it's going to slop where you don't want it. So come up to the corner there, fill it in with your stripe, and it will be really tidy. When you cut in the bottom of the trim, you swipe it just like we do. You run your line along, and if you're pressing correctly, you're not pressing too hard to create a bead, you're pressing lightly, you'll feel that corner edge on the tips of your brush, and so it will be relying less on your eyes and relying more on the feel, which will be much more accurate. Then as we come back, filling in with what I call a stripe, you just put a little bit of paint on your brush, and I always like to utilize the tips of my brush when I'm filling in the stripe, not smashing the brush, but utilizing the tips. That fills it in a lot better. But if you don't fill in every spot, don't worry, we're gonna hit it on a second coat and it's gonna be just fine. Inside the corner, we're gonna swipe, then start on the inside and work your way out to draw your line on top. Then again, start at the corner and run your line down, and use a little less paint than you do other places because you do not want a bead in that corner. And then you just fill it in very carefully, working your way out. Never work your way into the corner, always work your way out of the corner. Now for ceilings. Ceilings are going to be pretty much like anything else, but usually they're more gnarly, there's a lot more texture going on, and so it is more difficult to get a straight line. But as we mentioned earlier, you don't have to get it perfect the first time. It's pretty dry the first time. You're going to get it on second coat, so make your line and then fill it in as best as you can. Don't let a bead build up. And just go along, careful not to get it on the ceiling. Two things that you don't want to do. Don't dip your brush and have paint on both sides of your brush. When you have paint on both sides of your brush and you go to make that line, inevitably you're going to get paint on the ceiling. You'll see right along here, it's impossible to avoid. So that's why it's important to swipe your brush to keep it clean. Don't go along with paint on both sides of your brush. Second thing not to do is don't make your line and then go back and forth, trying to work it in everywhere. It's better, but you'll still see we've got some paint along the ceiling and that's not gonna work. So if you miss a spot, leave it for second coat. It's gonna fill in just fine. Last, I want to show you this long piece of trim with just the painted line. You can see that with longer segments, the entire cut-in is more cohesive and not wavy at all. Our goal with this method is not simply to keep the trim clean, but to create a cut-in line that is straight from one end of the wall to the other. And there you have it, some tips that I hope that will be helpful to you in your future projects, and hopefully you'll be able to get a nice straight cut in line that you've always been wanting.